There's a fly in my video. Hey! Okay, so we're here now for part 3, or our final part of our review of the FZ1000, the Panasonic FZ1000. I know, it kind of took so long. It took a while. I shot it around 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Well, because first of all, my GH4 had to go out for repair. I shoot most of my videos with the GH4. It started exhibiting some problems, so I had to send it back to the US for repair. I'm from the Philippines, so it took a month for everything to happen. I'm glad now it's working right, and it has Vlog in it. So now I also had to return the FZ1000. Well, we needed the unit as soon as possible, so for their promotions and other projects, of course, so I had to return it. But don't worry, this review is all about the low light. I did some shots with the low light, so even if I don't have the FZ1000 right now, I shot with the FZ1000 before I returned it in low light conditions. So what is low light? So for some, they define low light as having no light at all, but for me, to be low light means to shoot in a dark situation or in a dark scene. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to shoot without lights or in pitch black. I don't know whose crazy idea it is to mean that low light means to have no light at all. So there's a difference between low light and no light. So does the FZ1000 work for low light scenes? So we'll check out the video. So watch these videos right now. ISO 1.6, ISO 3200, ISO 6400. Okay, so those are the low light shots. I shot with AVC HD, I shot with MP4, I shot at 60 frames per second, and I tested all the ISO. So did it perform well? I don't know, you be the judge. For me, I think it did pretty well, but of course there's a lot of noise coming out once it reaches out around ISO 2000 to 6400. So is that a deal breaker for me? Not really, because I usually don't shoot above 1600 with my GH4, and I'm actually surprised that even at the ISO 2500 the footage is pretty usable. So just have to apply a noise reduction filter in post, and I think everything's good to go. I think if you have the right lights during a production or an event, I think that the FZ1000 will perform very well. So is it a low light camera? Probably not as good as the A7S, of course. That's a low light king. I mean, come on, who can beat ISO 400,000 or 200,000? But will it perform during events? 100% yes. So will it bring out the details in the darkness? Probably not. But come on guys, if you want the details to be seen, you better light it properly. So next, let's talk about the camera as a whole, since it's the final part of the review. As you have remembered previously on our previous review with Pat, we did a few tests, so this is my final assessment of the camera. So let's talk about the pros and the cons of the camera. What does this mean? good things, the bad things, the problems, or the drawbacks from the camera. Okay, first off, let's talk about the great things about the camera. First off, the thing that I love the most about the camera, and I wish I had with each camera that I have, is the long reach of the camera from telephoto to wide. Now, if I'm not mistaken, if you watch this part of the video of our previous review, you would see that the shot came from a medium wide shot of my body from waist up, and then when we zoomed out, you could see the entire landscape shot of the scene. So I think that's a great thing, especially if you're going to use this FZ1000 for reactions during events. So what else? 120 frames per second at 1080p. Now that's the one thing that's so cool about it. Even the GH4 only has 96 frames per second, but of course there's a bit of sacrifice with the quality. One, of course, is the dynamic range, and next is the moire, and of course the quality of the sharpness is quite soft. But for me, I think if for fun situations or some situations that won't be obvious to some clients, I think the 120 frames per second at 1080p from the FZ1000 is a great feature. We have good image stabilization, while not really that great, and I'm actually not a fan of image stabilization when it comes to video. I prefer to have it as natural as possible, of however the camera operator wants to operate it. But I think this is a good feature for those who are starting in video, having good image stabilization. So that's one of the great feature about this. If you've seen our test previously, even if we're really zoomed in, the stabilization, the image stabilization or IS still works great. Next, we have great autofocus. Now this is where it shines, and this is where I was surprised so much, because when we were testing the camera with Pat, when she was running back and forth, you could see from when we were on a semi-wide shot, or when she was far away from the camera, she was focused, and then when she ran to the camera, she was still focused, or the camera was able to follow the focus. Now that is a great feature, especially when you're shooting weddings or you're shooting scenes where you just need the camera to follow the focus of the subject. And for weddings, that would be great for the entourage. You just have to place your camera there, you just move it around, follow whoever's walking. Next, what else? It's really lightweight. It doesn't, the GH4, even though it's smaller than the FZ1000, GH4 is still heavier than the FZ1000. Even some of the smaller DSLRs like the 60D, which is almost the same size as the FZ1000, the 60D is still heavier. But the FZ1000 is so light, and it's amazing. The weight's really amazing. It's like you're carrying around a small camera, but it's kind of big when you're handling it. So that would be also a downside of sorts, being big, since if you want to be like stealthy when you're shooting and you want to go like really near a subject for, I don't know, for your personal purposes, just don't spy on people. Or don't stalk people, please. That's against the law. Is that against the law? So the things that I didn't like about the camera, so let's talk about those. So first off, it's not really meant for low light situations, although it performs quite well. Of course, you can't shoot with it in the dark, but it has decent exposure during events. Next, we have the thing that I don't like the most is the weird placement of the tripod mount. Come on, it actually blocks the battery slot, and the worst thing about it is the battery slot also has the SD card slot. So if you want to change your SD card, if you want to change your battery, you have to remove the tripod mount. So any mount you use, it's blocking the battery slot. So if you're doing SDEs for weddings, that's going to be a huge problem. So unless you're just taking your time, you know. Next, the battery life. GH4, I could shoot with the GH4 for the entire day. Creative shots, no problem. And and I'd only lose battery by the end of the event. So that's a huge thing with the GH4. For the FZ1000, we were shooting prenup for half a day, and within half a day I got around, that's when the camera started going in low battery mode. So for prenup, I think it's a good thing the prenup ended by the time it went into low bat. Next we have the video bit rates. Now for 4K you could shoot the FZ1000 at 100 mbit, so it is up to par with the GH4. But when you shoot in 1080p, especially in frame rates at 24 frames, 60 frames per second, you only get up to 28, or even sometimes I think the most is 50, but I don't think it even reaches 50. Okay, so what do I think about the camera? So I recommend this to a lot of hobbyists. I recommend this for people who are into or shooting weddings, for the main camera and for these reaction cameras. But for the creative camera, probably it's best to use the GH4. So would I use it for productions? Most likely not, due to the low bit rate when shooting in 1080p. 4K I could use it, but comparing the 4K from the GH4 and the 4K from the FZ1000, I would prefer the 4K in the GH4, especially that the GH4 has a log profile now. Yes, I bought one, so don't judge me. It's a great camera. If I would rate it out of 10, I would rate it around an 8 out of 10 for being very affordable. It's lightweight. It's a great camera. So it's above average. It's not an average camera. It's a very impressive camera, but like I said, it's not everything. It doesn't have everything, unlike GH4, which has a lot of features that the FZ1000 doesn't have. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you liked what we've been saying here. So I hope you got interested in the camera. Now I would like to take this time to announce a new series that we're planning to launch. So I'd like you to take a look at this. Okay, what's Beyond the Camera? Beyond the Camera is a series, a TV show where we create content learning about cinematography. I've been doing weddings for 6 years now, so I'd like to learn more about cinematography, more about lighting, more about framing, and a lot more techniques about cinematography. We'll also be featuring a few suppliers here in the Philippines. We hope to do that. What they have for everyone else, or what they have for people in production, for people in the wedding industry. So I hope we could push this through. I'm very excited, and I've been doing some scripts for a few times already. So hope you enjoy this video, and watch out for Beyond the Camera.